So two important concepts that you are going to see in today's class will be used in all future control oriented classes that Professor Kinshuk Bhattacharya will take. All right. So the first thing that we will do is find out transfer function of a particular electronic circuit. So let me start presenting. So what we are going to do is we take a circuit like this. There is an op-amp. This side is grounded. Obviously, some power is supplied from outside. I will not show this. These two is for external power supply. This is an input voltage, some gain. Some gain, let's call it alpha. Then we have a capacitor, call it C. We have a resistor, call it R1. Here we have output voltage, O. We have another resistance, grounded, R2. I will modify that VO and I will isolate this system from the rest. So I will not take VO here. I will put another op-amp here. This is another op-amp. Let's call it again, let's say beta. Output is VO. So this circuit, this is called an compensator. This compensator will come just before the system. Let's say you have system GS. Here is your compensator CS. This is compensator. Some gain. We can take this gain alpha and beta outside. So this gain, let it be alpha beta. So the compensator is only this part. This alpha beta are used to isolate the control system from the system so that the dynamics of the system doesn't get fed back to the compensator. So no reverse current flows to the compensator. Yes, any questions there? Then you will have usually your controller and other things. Whatever difference, plus, minus, you can have gain or controller, gain or controller connected to the output. So compensator will be put in the forward loop. Compensator appears in forward loop. Forward path. Compensator will never be put in feedback path. So what this compensator will do, you will learn in your further classes as Professor Bhattacharya will teach you. Right now, what we will do is we will analyze the properties of this compensator. So this compensator has a very simple model. If you look at it, its model is, let me take input voltage here instead of there. Some alpha beta I have taken out of this. So let this be Vi bar, let this be Vo bar. So Vo bar times beta is Vo. Vi bar divided by alpha is Vi. So its alpha and beta are taken out. So we will try from Vi bar to Vo bar. So what we have? We have a source of effort, that is Vi bar. Then we have series connection, series between something and rest of the circuit. The part here is parallel connection, same effort across C is to 1 by C, R is to R1. Then rest of the circuit, again we have a parallel connection, 0, R is to R2. This is up amp, goes to up amp, and you have a sensor. This is a detector of effort. That is, we measure VO bar, which gives us PO bar output. Now, if you look at this, because this is an up amp, here current will be, input side current will be almost 0. So here this is I or F is equal to 0. That means this has 0 power. So this we can remove. So power going to the second up amp is 0. Always you will have 0 power on input side of up amp, any arbitrary power on the output side of up amp, because that arbitrary power is provided from external source. These two sources, this and this, will provide external source power. So here also some external tank circuit power is there, some battery or some power source is connected. Okay, so input side current is 0, power is 0, we will remove this. So this is our bond graph model. Is this bond graph model clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So I will repeat this bond graph model below so that we can draw its signal flow graph. So we have SC is to PI bar 1, 0, C is to 1 by C, R is to R1, then another 0, R is to R2, and a flow sensor, effort detector, sorry. We give some numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This we will take out from the node of the signal flow graph, so I don't put it. It doesn't come into the picture. It has no value. Then we put causality on this. So source of effort, like this, nothing happens. This C element, put it in integral causality. Then this will come here. This will come here. So this one junction will be here. This R will be here. This DE, of course, is always like this. Then we have its signal flow graph. So we have at one junction, different nodes, efforts are different. E1, we have E2, E5 and E6 are same. E5 is equal to E6, all those are same. So E5, 6, 7, all those are same. Flows at one junction are same. F1, 2, 5 are same. Flows at 3, flow at 4 are different. And we have flow at that 6. Flow at 7 is 0. So this is our thing. This is our input. E1, US. At the one junction, we have the relation 5 is strong bond. So what we have is E5 is E1 minus E2. So E5 is E1 minus E2. Then in 0 junction 2, 3, 4, 3 is the strong bond. Here efforts are equal. This 2, 3, 4 are same. E2, 3, 4. Efforts are equal. And we have 3 as F3. 3 is strong bond. F3 is F2 minus F4. Okay. Then we have F6. F6 will come from this 0 junction relation. And as we see here, okay, F6 and F5 are same. Here 6 is the strong bond. Sorry, 5 is the strong bond. So F5 is equal to F6. F7 is 0. So this is straight. F5 is equal to F6. So those are junction rules. Then we have the R elements and C elements. For bond number 3, we calculate using F3, we calculate E2, E3. E2, E3 all are same. K by S. So K here is 1 by C and S. So mechanical system we write K by S. In electrical system, in place of K we write 1 by C. Integral causality, so 1 by Cs. That means 1 by C times integral of current, that is the charge. So 1 by C times integral of current gives the potential difference. Integration becomes 1 by S in Laplace domain. Then for R1, R is to R1, that is in bond number 4. Here the causality is such that we calculate, we give effort, calculate flow. So from E4, we have to calculate F4. So from E4, we calculate F4, 1 by R1. And in bond number 6, again similar causality. From E6, we calculate F6. So this is from here, 1 by R2. What is the output? Output is E7, which is this one, YS. So this is our signal flow graph. We can simplify this little bit. We can remove all kinds of useless nodes. This F6, F1 to 5, all those are useless nodes. We can remove. This also is useless node. So I will write down in much simpler manner. So the simplest thing becomes US straight going to that E5, 6, 7, output YS. Then you have F3. Let me put here F3. From E5 to F3, we have connection directly, 1 by R2. Then, sorry, E2, I will put somewhere, okay, E2. So let this be E2, here -1. Then from F3 to E2, we have 1 by CS. And we have E2 to F4 and back to F3. E2 to F4. This is 1 by R1. and gain here minus 1. So that is our reduced model. Now if you look at this, we have a loop here, L1. We have a loop here in this direction. This is L2. L1 gain is minus 1 by R2CS. L2 gain is minus 1 by R1CS. So note that all the gains, this is a perfectly stable system, all loop gains are negative. When we write Mason's gain formula, we write 1 minus sum of loop gains. So when loop gains are negative, they will appear because of minus sign already they are in calculation of the graph determinant, they will become plus.
Sir?
Yes?
Sir, why are we keeping F4?
I have kept it. Those two minus ones I have kept because those two minus ones I will replace by that sum block in block diagram. Okay?
So we could have just made
yes, you
F3.
can put it. Yes, you can directly put here minus 1 by R1. No problem. Okay? No problem. That's fine. As long as you will apply Mason's gain rule, you can remove F4. So we have both all negative gains. If you remember something called Descartes' rule of signs, Descartes' rule of signs, what was there? What is my pen? If a polynomial sum phi has, let's say, some a s to the power m plus dot dot dot, somewhere there is a, let's say, somewhere one term is a n s to the power n plus dot dot dot, then if there is at least one minus term, then you have a root. You will have at least one positive root. If all other coefficients are positive, then at least one root will become positive. So if one root's real part becomes positive, then the system will become unstable. So if we know that the system is perfectly stable, then all terms must come positive. So that does not guarantee that all roots will be negative, but the necessary condition says that all coefficients must be positive. Okay, but that's not sufficient condition. So if you have one term minus, necessary condition is not satisfied, obviously system will become unstable. So if you anticipate or have prior knowledge that a system is perfectly stable, then all loop gains should come negative. All right. So this is what has come. Now we will write down the transfer function.
Descartes' rule. So in Descartes' rule, like if there are multiple negative signs, then also one root will have positive real part. Okay.
Yes. So that is not sufficient condition. All right. Okay. That is just necessary condition.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now for this one, we will write our forward path gain. So there is nothing. Input and output are connected to the same node. So forward path gain is 1. First number of forward paths is 1 and forward path gain P1 is 1. Now delta 1, once we remove P1, this E5 will go, but the L2 will remain. So delta 1 will be 1 plus 1 minus L2. That is 1 plus L2 is 1 by R1 CS. CS. So that is delta 1. What is graph determinant? Total graph determinant? 1 minus sum of loop gains, that is L1 plus L2 plus non-touching loop gains, nothing. They are not there. No non-touching loops. So you get 1 plus 1 by R1 CS plus 1 by R2 CS. Okay. So this is what it comes. Now total transfer function, we call it CS is equal to P1 delta 1 by delta. So that is P1 plus 1 by R1 CS by 1 plus 1 by R1 CS plus 1 by R2 CS. So this is our compensator transfer function. This transfer function is very important. You look at this, multiply both top and bottom by R1 CS. So what we get, or just by S, let's say. So S plus 1 by R1C divided by S plus 1 by R1C plus 1 by R2C. This is your compensator transfer function. This we can equivalently write CS is equal to S plus some constant A. R1 and C are fixed parameters, so we wrote some constant A by S plus some constant B with B greater than A. B is 1 by R1C plus 1 by R2C. So extra term is plus 1 by R2C. So B is greater than A. This difference B minus A, you will learn, is an important parameter for design of control systems. That will come later. So what we get is a transfer function of the kind S plus A by S plus B, which is a first order filter. This is basically a first order filter. So is that clear how this came?
Sir, why is this a filter? Can you explain that?
I'll show. Don't worry. I'll show. Okay. So this is a first order filter, not very sharp filter. For higher order filters, if you apply something like this, is basically a high pass filter. I will show you. Okay. You can have much higher order filters like Butterworth filters, Bessel filters, Chebyshev filters, where these S to the power terms will be coming as square, cube, fourth, and so on. Okay. But this is just a preliminary filter, first order filter. So whatever happens, you will get a form S plus A by S plus B, where A is 1 by R1C and B is 1 by R1C plus 1 by R2C. So rest in the following, I will take only A and B. So let's see what this filter does. So usually when you have a transfer function GS, let's say GS, where S is a complex number, any arbitrary complex number, sigma plus j omega, then we write magnitude GS is sigma plus j omega. So in this case, we will write magnitude of numerator j omega, sigma plus j omega, by denominator sigma plus j omega magnitude. That's what we do. So for this case, for filter, let input be purely sinusoidal. So sigma is equal to 0. No decaying part or expanding part, purely sinusoidal. So S is equal to j omega. So that's how we usually treat filters. Though we know that generally S is sigma plus j omega. Sigma is a real part, j omega is some imaginary part, and those can be plus minus. So let's put, okay, what is magnitude C j omega? We will put in place of S j omega. Okay, so magnitude j omega plus A by j omega plus B. So square root omega square plus A square by square root omega square plus B square. That's what we will get. So now, if omega is equal to 0, that is DC input. So constant frequency is not changing, it's a constant input, omega is equal to 0. Then magnitude C J0 is how much? Omega is equal to 0, it is A by B. Okay, straightforward. Whereas if omega tends to infinity, then magnitude, this is magnitude, J infinity will become 1 because A square and B square will be negligible with respect to omega. So magnitude will become 1. So what we have at 0 frequency, magnitude is A by B. B is greater than A, which is this is less than 1 because B is less than A. Sorry, B is greater than A. And this is 1. So this is how its frequency, with frequency, the transmission ratio or gain of this transfer function of the compensator change. So we can plot them. So what happens? This is omega, this is magnitude Cj omega. So starting value is A by B. Final value is 1. As omega tends to infinity, this is 1. So this will go, you will see something like this. It will go somewhere like this. It will vary, and somewhere it will be, there will be an inflection point. Where that inflection point will come, I will tell you. This is called omega B or break frequency of filter. All right. So where is this best break frequency? We will plot also phase. This is angle of that compensator j omega. So what is angle? Angle of compensator j omega is angle of that whole thing. Okay, and we know how to find that. Okay, so that will be angle of ns, nj omega numerator minus angle of denominator. So top part is j omega plus a, so its angle is tan inverse omega by a. Bottom part is j omega plus b, so its angle is tan inverse omega by b. That's how the argument comes. Now this angle Cj0 is how much? At omega is equal to 0, tan inverse 0 by a minus tan inverse 0 by b is 0. So at that is at omega is equal to 0. Now angle C J infinity, how much? That is pi by 2. First term tan inverse infinity by A. The second term is also pi by 2. That is also 0 at omega is equal to infinity. So at omega is equal to 0, the angle is 0. At omega is equal to infinity, the angle is infinity. What happens at other times? At other times, at other frequency, omega by A is smaller. So omega by A is greater than omega by B. B is greater than A. So this phase is greater than equal to 0. Always greater than equal to 0. At omega is equal to 0, it is 0. At omega is equal to infinity, it asymptotically tends to 0. At other places, it is positive. So that I will draw here. Omega B. So here it is 0. It becomes positive and again becomes 0. This one here is maximum phase lead. Lead because phi is greater than 0. If this goes downwards, then it is called lag. So positive phase is phase lead, negative phase is lag. So this is how the maximum will occur, and that maximum occurs exactly at the break frequency. That is the inflection point in that magnitude graph. What is that break frequency? We'll calculate, not a problem. All right. So this is there is a phase lead. That's why this is called this filter is a high pass filter. Why high pass? Omega greater than omega B is passed with gain equal to 1, almost equal to 1. And omega less than omega B has gain A by B, which is usually much less than 1. Okay? So there is a large difference between A and B. So any frequency below that break frequency of the filter, or so-called cutoff frequency of the filter, break frequency or cutoff frequency, below that the amplitude of the signal will be reduced, and anything that is above that frequency will be passed as it is with almost a single gain, one gain. So what happens if you have a signal mixed up, let's say, lot of frequencies, and you pass through this filter? So all those frequency components below the cutoff frequency, those will be eliminated, or if those are not even completely eliminated, they will be attenuated. All right. So those values will reduce, whereas the components, high frequency components above the cutoff frequency, they will be passed as they are. So this is a filter that comes from the magnitude consideration. Now where is this break frequency? Big problem. That's very easy. We take this angle. Let this angle, we call it phi. So we just take tan phi. Tan phi. So instead of maximizing phi, we can maximize tan phi. So what we have, tan phi is omega by A, tan of tan inverse tan omega by A minus omega by B by 1 plus tan A tan B. So 1 plus omega square by AB. Okay, that's what it comes. So let's write it. So you have A minus B omega, B minus A omega by omega square plus AB. AB denominator has gone. So we maximize this. So d tan phi by d omega is equal to 0. So we get here twice omega into b minus a omega minus this is b minus a. I have taken this one's derivative. Okay, so omega square. Okay, so minus b minus a into omega square is equal to 0. So b minus a goes. So what happened? Oh, ab. Okay, okay. Omega square plus ab. Equal to 0. So you have twice omega square minus omega square, that is omega square minus AB is equal to 0. Omega, this is break frequency, turns out to be square root AB. So this is where the max, you can take second derivative, you will find it is the maximum. So if this is the thing, then phi max or maximum lead is given as tan inverse omega by a, omega b we will put. Okay, so square root b by a minus tan inverse square root a by b. Okay, that we know what are a and b. That is 1 by R1C and other one is 1 by R1C plus 1 by R2C. So this is the maximum lead we will get. So this filter you will use, this as lead compensator. So this compensator will be called lead compensator because it is giving a phase lead. Lead compensator in root loci based design. When we will design controllers based on root loci or Nyquist plot, at that point of time you will need this compensator. And don't think that that compensator is some arbitrary thing maintained in computer. It can be an analog circuit, just as I have shown it. Simple two resistances and a capacitor. If you change that circuit a little bit, put the capacitor near R2, it will give phase lag and it will become a phase lag compensator. Alright, that lag compensator is essentially a low pass filter. You can look at Thereja or something, you will find out that what are low pass filter, high pass filter circuits. So it will be identical to that circuit with two op amps on two sides to isolate the system. Alright. So whatever happens in that part of electrical circuit, only the output, scaled output from op amp will affect the system. From system side, nothing will reverse flow to the compensator. So whatever I have shown, this is very basic. In fact, same kind of op amp circuits, like you can have a op amp integrator, you can have op amp differentiator, you can have op amp, let's say oscillators, let's say Weinberg oscillator or Colpitts oscillator, different kinds of oscillators are there. You can in fact derive their transfer functions pretty easily. Much easily than whatever you were taught in your first year's basic electronic course. Just 2 lines, you will draw the bond graph and straight transfer function comes. And as you know, those things will work as integrator or differentiator when the op amp gain is high. So you take whatever transfer function you derive, take a limit of the op amp gain tending to infinity, and you will find that the result is similar to a integrator or a differentiator or kinds like that. So those things I am not going into. So what you understand, there is something called a lead compensator, which is equivalent to a high pass filter. So these filters can be combined in many ways. Let's say we have some C2S is S plus C by S plus D with C greater than D, reversed. So if C is greater than D, then what will happen? At S is equal to 0, the value will be high. This is 0, S is equal to 0, omega is equal to 0. This is omega axis. So omega is equal to 0, value will be C by D is greater than 1. And S tends to infinity, value will become 1. So this is 1 at infinity. So your curve will tend like this to 1. And here again you will have break frequency, which will be again square root CD. This is a low pass filter. This gain 1 comes, you can multiply this with some other constant to eliminate that one, reduce that one. So this is a low pass filter or lag compensator. I am not deriving because it's identical. This is magnitude. And if you drop phase j omega, you will find this is, let's say, 0. Omega, obviously phase at 0 is 0, phase at infinity is 0. It will be like this, exactly at breakpoint, phi max or lag at WB. Same, at same W breakpoint, you will get the maximum phase lag. So is it clear how these filters are coming? Is it clear, students? Answer, someone answer, please.
Sir,
Yes. Sir.
Yes.
sir, how we will get this low pass filter?
By another circuit, by changing that capacitor location to parallel to R2. Okay, physically. Physically, there are different circuits.
So I'm still
Yes.
not able to understand the practical functionality of this compensators. Can you please elaborate on that?
Practical.
Where do we use it and why do we need them?
You use it for stability in the control system. That will be taught by Professor Bhattacharya. So I will, maybe tomorrow I will show some example. All right. Okay. But usually, even if it's not control system, you can use it for normal signal processing. For example, let's say you want to, I will show. Okay, I will show right now maybe something. How do we combine this?
Samandra,
Yes.
just one point that I want to make here. See, one of the reasons why we use compensators is you have used proportional control, probably integral and differential. So actually, in real life, the components that you will be getting are more closer to these kind of compensators rather than ideal proportional, integral or differential elements. That is one of the reasons.
Okay, thank you, Kingshuk. So I will show you what happens. Let's say you have one some kind of controller. Controller HS is two compensator, C1S, C2S. That means two things, one after other. So in time domain, of course, this and this, they will get convoluted here. Okay, they are simply multiplied. So C1S and C2S Let
Sir,
one be,
sir,
yes.
sir, the first resistance stays. Just the capacitor goes from this parallel to the second parallel.
I think so. I have to refer. I have to refer. I think so. I have to. Otherwise, I have to derive that. All right. For the lag compensator, the circuit is there in Theresa. It's there. Certainly, I have seen it. Okay. Okay. So let's say this is S plus A by S plus B, and this is S plus C by S plus D. So two different things are there. So you have break frequency for this square root AB, for this square root CD. All right. So let's say square root AB is greater than square root BC. Let's say square root AB, not BC, CD. So CD, this one, okay, for this one, C is greater than D, C is greater than D, here B is greater than A. So what kind of a response we will get? Omega, this is magnitude H J omega. What kind of a response we will get? Square root AB, that is high pass filter cutoff. This is high pass filter cutoff. Square root AB. And this is low pass filter cutoff, square root CD. So initially we will have a low pass filter. So up to this low pass filter will work as usual. So low pass filter works. Then what happens? After this low pass filter takes effect, it reduces. Then this high pass filter will start working, amplification. So this will then go like this and go like this. Go like this. So this is the area you have frequencies between square root CD to square root AB are eliminated. This is called a notch filter. Okay, so you combine those two things. Okay, also called lead lag compensator. Both are present. Lead and lag are present, but in normal terms, in electronics terms, it is called a notch filter. And where do you use it? You will see in some measurements you take in lab, you will see in every measurement there is a 50 hertz frequency. 50 hertz or 50.2 hertz, 51 hertz, like that. So where does that come? It's not there in your system, actual system. So from where this 50, 51, 49, this kind of things can come? Can somebody tell? And something 50 hertz is very common.
Monitor refresh rate.
Frequency of electrical supply.
Line frequency. Okay, AC line frequency. All right. So if your equipment is not properly grounded, so grounding is not proper, earthing is not proper, then that 50 hertz component will start affecting your measurements. So we want to eliminate that 50 hertz only, nothing else. Okay. So what we will do, we will put the square root AB and square root CD very close to each other, and both values, let's say square root AB is something like 51, square root CD is something like 49. Okay. So between that whatever happens, those part will be eliminated. So we can actually filter our signal measurement by removing the extra spurious 50 hertz component. So that's how this notch filter is used. Exactly in the same sense, we can combine these two things differently. So we can say instead of square root CD becoming less than square root AB, so if square root CD is greater than square root AB, then we will have a response. This is 1. Again this omega, we will have a response like this. Okay. So what's happening? So our square root AB is here. That is high pass filters, our lead compensators, this thing. This is square root AB. This is the lag compensators, this thing. So in between here, this frequency band is amplified. This is called a band pass filter. Very commonly used band pass filter in all kinds of older radios where you turn the knobs to catch certain frequencies in certain band. They say 94.6 hertz FM. So you put a band first within that, then you have resonating system which will catch that. Okay. So what you are doing there, you are interested in a particular frequency band, and rest of the things you want to eliminate. So that is what is a band pass filter. So these are common uses, but these are not the uses in control systems. How these are used in control system, you will learn. Okay. What do these things do? Okay, they are introducing extra poles and extra zeros. Okay. S plus A by S plus B. That means you are putting a zero at minus A and pole at minus B. So if you add a extra pole and extra zero to your system, how the system's behavior changes, that you will learn afterwards.
Sir,
Okay. Yes.
sir, what these compensators or filters are actually doing means, are they amplifying selected frequencies or blocking all the other frequencies? Which one of two is it?
Any one of them amplifies amplifies a part of the thing and blocks the other. So
Sir,
whatever,
then the
yes.
the first part is not clear, in which CD is greater than AB. So means the whole plot should be flattened out zero, right? Because when one is zero, when one is small, the other is big, and when one is big, other is small. So
They are
their multiplication.
They are multiplications.
So
okay.
Everything should become small, right?
Which one?
In
here,
CD greater than AB.
CD. See, this is square root CD square root AB, but there is a ratio of C by D and ratio of A by B. Okay, the magnitude is decided by the ratio. Okay, square root AB and square root CD are just the break frequencies. All right. So the other one alone, this one alone would have been like this, and this one alone is like this. Okay. Same here, whatever is here is same, let's say. Okay, let's say same comes to this. Okay, so where is it minimum? This product, wherever it is, that product is same almost here. Okay, and here in this part that product will be less. All right, that's what is shown here.
Got it, sir. And this omega scale is logarithmic, right?
Here I have drawn it linearly, but usually it is logarithmic in some frequency response plots. Okay. If yes, of course, this infinity, how do we show infinite up to infinite? Okay, this will go to that 1 after a long time. Okay, this goes like this. All right. Okay. So that is logarithmic. Okay, so this is how filters will come. I will show you one other interesting thing. What Professor Kinshuk Bhattacharya mentioned, I have not really taught you. So I will teach you something very interesting. We will find out what is steady state error.
Sir?
Yes?
So can we have a break, please?
Okay. 5 minutes. Huh? I will come back and do it.
Before the break, I have just one question that you can think of. Can you get an ideal capacitance, a capacitance which has no resistance?
Or resistance without inductance.
Yes, you can't get that ideally. So that is one of the reasons why you have these like simple reason why we go for these compensator like things. You will realize later. But give that a thought.
Okay, so it's 402, 407, we join back. Thank you.
Anything else? A stunning monument to Spanish procrastination.
Hello? Hello?
Team match. Let's go.
The blue team has scored for the first time. Nice shot. Clear. Cover me.
Okay, students, are you back?
مرة صعدة سد الباب.
Okay. So, what is steady state error? Steady state error is, okay, let's say you have some kind of response. This is desired reference. So this is our reference or command. And your response doesn't go there. Response goes, let's say, here, or response might go like this and come back here. So this gap, this is called steady state error. Or in short, we write SSE. So what's that? That's by margin by which we are missing the target. So margin by which target is missed. All right? So this has to be very small. Okay, so you fire a missile to China from, let's say, Bay of Bengal, and it lands in Kolkata. That kind of thing should not happen. So whether such steady state errors really occur, let's see. Let's take one example and see where steady state error occurs. So let's say we have a pulley, some kind of pulley, some omega is given. From there, we have some kind of a spring hanging rope. There is a mass hanging from that. This is K rope, let's say. And this pulley is rotating at omega. Let's say omega r is this velocity. So this is our velocity, V. This pulley is controlled. There is a velocity sensor. This is compared. Reference velocity. This is error. This error is, we have a gain. Let's say gain is Kp. I am putting a proportional gain, and this applies some kind of force or some kind of velocity b. Maybe we can say it's omega, then multiplied with radius, it is b. So we are directly controlling b. But assume that this mass is inside water. This is water. And some viscous resistance because of the water acts on this R. This is viscous damping due to water. Okay. As we know, gravity will not be considered. Everything is taken from equilibrium position. So this is our system. So the model is straightforward for this kind of a system. You don't have much of complication for this. So we have a source of flow. I am not putting here omega and again transformer R and all those things. I am straight putting velocity. This is my open loop system. Okay. Then 0, KR, then 1, I is to mass M, R is to whatever resistance of water, and you have your flow activated C. This is sensor. This is my open loop system. So from this we can derive the transfer function of the system. Put some numbers. Let me put here 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Let this be 4, 5. Sensor is not required. We'll put causalities. This, then this will come here. This will come here. This will come here. This will come here. So we will derive transfer function from this, the top point, what is the rate of velocity at which the rope is being pulled, to the velocity of the mass which is measured. So from input to the output. So this whole signal flow graph is again simple. So at 0 junction, we will have effort same. E1, 2, 3 are all same. F1, F2, F3 are different. F1 is input. F2, F3. You have 2 as strong bond. So F1 minus F3 is F2. Then F2 integrated multiply with the spring stiffness Kr by S. In electrical system it was 1 by Cs. Here Kr by S, that is E2. Now for the one junction efforts are different. E3 is already there. E4 and E5 we will put. E4, E5. Flows are same. F3, 4, 5. This will be, of course, the output measurement. Ys. F1 is input. Us. Then E4
minus
is
1 over F3. F3 to F2.
Yes, here minus 1. Yes. We would have got it if the loop gain comes positive. All right. So now E4 gives, E4 integrated is momentum divided by mass. So 1 by ms gives F4. Then at that junction, flows are equal. Effort E3 minus E5. E3 minus E5 is E4. And as per causality now, E5 is F5 times R. So this is our model. You have loop 1 here, loop 2 here. So we straight right loop gains L1 comes out to be Kr by ms square minus L2 is minus 1 by R or MRS. So these are our loop gains. Forward path there is only one.
So minus R by ms, right?
Oh, R by ms. Yes. Right. Let me do Control Z. Yes, fine. So we have forward path. So this goes to Kr by S, then goes to 1 by ms. That's it. Okay. So Kr by ms square plus. And if you remove this forward path, nothing will be left. So if nothing is left, delta 1 is 1. So we have our transfer function. So our GS, this is open loop transfer function. All right. So P1 delta 1 by delta. So that is KR by MS square divided by 1 minus L1 plus L2. So this is plus KR by MS square plus R by MS. This is 1 minus L1 plus L2. No non-touching loops are there. So this we multiply both sides top and bottom by MS square. So what we get? KR by MS square plus RS plus KR. Same thing as single D wave oscillator. Only top term is KR. All right. This is open loop transfer function. So now we have that in a control loop. That gain Kp appears in the forward path. So if you go back, you see after comparison, this is plus, this is minus. So after comparison, gain Kp is appearing. So when we feed back, we will get a closed loop transfer function, GCS is closed loop transfer function is K times GS. It is GS HS. HS is constant K. 1 plus GS HS, that is KGS. So we will put that and find it out. So how much it comes? K times KR by MS square plus dot 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 by 1 plus K KR by MS square plus dot dot dot. So we rationalize that. Turns out to be K KR by MS square plus RS plus here there was a KR plus another KR. So KR plus Kolkata night riders plus KKR or KPR. This K is KP. Okay, let's write KP then. KPKR. So this is our closed loop transfer function. So let's see what will be the input. Let input be reference velocity B, which is constant. Let's say constant. So then what is US? US is, this is constant, B by S. For Dirac delta, it is 1. For unit step, it is 1 by S. Now it's not unit step, it's B times step. So there is a constant multiplier B. So input is B by S. So if this is US, then closed loop output YS is us times this closed loop transfer function times s. So how much it is? V by s into that kpkr by ms square plus rs plus kr plus kp kr. This is our output transfer function of the closed loop system. Now, what will be the final value? Limit t tending to infinity yt is limit s tending to 0, final value theorem, s into ys. So what we get? Limit s tending to 0, s v by s, that will cancel out, kp kr by ms square plus rs plus kr plus kp kr, and this turns out to be kr will cancel out, kp by 1 plus kp. This will be the final value. So what is steady state error? Is equal to V reference minus V final. So how much it is in time domain? V minus whatever V we have given. Oh, V is multiplied. V of course is there. V into 1 minus kp by 1 plus kp. Okay. So you have V 1 plus kp minus kp 1, 1 by 1 plus kp. This is obviously greater than 0. So you have a steady state error. All right. So let me show you first before how to remove it. Is this clear? Yes.
Sir, here GC has s square in the denominator. So there is one inductive element and one capacitive element. So is that making it have two states?
There are two states. When you have a square, when you have two number of the order of the denominator of the transfer function, it's same as number of integral causal elements in the bond graph model. All right, that I have told repeatedly. As many integral causalities are there in the bond graph element, two, one I and one C, two of them were there, so here a square will appear. All right, that many eigenvalues are there. So I will first show you how this steady state error comes, and then we will remove it. So how to do it? Don't worry, I am just showing in symbol something. Tomorrow I will show you the full thing. So let me
sir,
yes.
Can you discuss once again that t is equal to infinity is equal to limit s tending to 0?
When time t tends to infinity, it is limit s tending to 0, ys. Limit yt, t tending to 0, is limit s tending to 0, s times ys. That is final value theorem. Okay. I can prove it, but it's better you check. You have got it from your transform calculus course. Okay, check Krejcik. All right. That is a very basic derivation. Yes.
Okay, sir. In that formula, one side is in time domain and other side is in space, means frequency domain, right?
The value is a scalar constant. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. It's a constant. Okay. So let me, what was our transfer function of open loop system? Kr by ms square plus rs plus kr. Let me take some kr. Kr is equal to, let's say, 100. R is equal to, let's say, 10. Some arbitrary value. Okay. Maybe 5. 10 is too much. Let me take 2 or 2 maybe. Small. Mass is equal to, let's say, 1. So I write my G, only G I am writing. G is Kr divided by M star S square plus R, capital R I am writing. Okay, R star S plus Kr. Our G. So this is our transfer function for values I have chosen. Are you able to see? This is very small letter.
No, sir.
Huh? Nothing?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
We can
Not,
zoom and see.
it's visible, sir. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So I have taken rope stiffness 100, resistance 2 and mass is equal to 1 and this is our transfer function. So now let me take some Kp. Kp is, let's say, 0.5. Let's say Kp is equal to 0.5. So I do a...
Won't
Yes?
both the same R's like be overwritten?
Yes, it is overwritten. I have written R is equal to 10, then R is equal to 2. So 2 is used. Okay. So value is 2 now. All right. Okay. So you see S square plus 2S. There was MS square plus RS. In place of R, 2 has come. All right. So I have taken 2. Resistance is 2. Steady state error is not dependent on that R value. All right. So we have this. All right. So Kp is 0.5. So G closed loop is, let's say, Kp into G divided by 1 plus Kp star G. So I get my G closed loop. All right. This is my closed loop system. And some B I take. Some B. So I will write that US, our US is B by S. B is, let's say, 10. So I want it 10 meter square. So this is my input. So Y is output. Output is U star this GC. So this is my output Laplace transform. So if this is my output Laplace transform, I will just plot it. I will plot it. So in fact, you can find out the output just from inverse Laplace transform. Inverse Laplace transform of Y. If you look at this inverse Laplace transform, do you see it? Inverse Laplace transform.
Yes, sir.
3.333 plus something cos e to the power minus t. So as t tends to infinity, that e to the power minus t term will disappear. The final value will become 3.333. All right. So if we do a time response, I will tell you how to do those things. Time response of what is that? Y. Y. It is open loop step input. Open loop step input. No, not this. Already I have taken step. So open loop impulse. So what is that? Y. Okay. So you see where has it gone? Some response has come. I put a cursor. I move that cursor. Let's go to end. End. It's not going to. 3.3333, that is the final value. And our predicted final value was B times Kp by 1 plus Kp. Okay. So B times B means 10. 10 times Kp is 0.5. That is 5. 5 by 1.5. Yes, that was 5 by B times Kp by 1 plus Kp. Yes. So B is 10 star 0.5 divided by 1 plus this 1.5. That is 1/3. Okay. 3.333. That is the final value has come. the steady state error is 6.666. All right. So this is what is the error.
Why did we take that to be impulse?
Because we have already multiplied that 10 by s. Okay. If I don't multiply that 10 by s, then I can find out. Okay, but that will be for unit impulse. Means instead of 10, response is for input is 1. I can do that. Time of GC. Okay. GC open loop step input by default is 1. It's not 10. Okay. So my response will not be 3.333, it will be 0.333. You see here, that is same thing. And so it's 0.333. It will go to 0.33. If your input is reference command is not 10 but 1, then whatever values you get for reference command is equal to 10, you multiply with 10. Reference command is equal to 100, you multiply with 100. Error will be 100 times like that. Okay, so you get 0.333. So if you have already multiplied to get the output ys, then you don't take again another step. In that case, another 1 by s gets multiplied. All right. But if you have not multiplied, instead of ys, you take straight GC and take its open loop step response, then it's fine. All right. Then it will take 1 unit input and it will find the same result. All right. So there is error. What we understand is there is error. So how do we eliminate this error? That's a big problem. So how to eliminate this error? That's what I am going to show you. One thing that you can see here, interesting is if Kp is large, Kp tends to infinity, then final value tends to, there is a b here. Okay, I am leaving that b. Final value becomes b and SSC tends to 0. So if Kp is infinity, final value will be reached and steady state error will be 0. But big problems. What happens if Kp is large? 1. Overshoot increases. All right. So that will increase the overshoot. Second thing is noise gets amplified. All kinds of sensors, there is obviously some noise, and if you use high gain, that noise will be amplified. And number 3, system may become unstable. So the condition how the system becomes unstable or stable, that Professor Bhattacharya will teach you. So you cannot say that I will increase the gain. So Kp by 1 plus Kp, 1 will be negligible with respect to Kp, and this thing will be okay. If you do that, your overshoot will increase. It will increase like anything. I can show it. I think the simulations are pretty good way to show that. So I will show it. I will show it with a increased damping so that it's better. Results are better with increased damping. I go up.
So what is overshoot basically?
I will show. I will show. So I redefine my this, then GC. Where is GC? This is okay. This is Kp. I will. This is GC. Let's say 1. GC 1. GC 2 is set with. Let's change Kp. So GC1 is with Kp is equal to 0.5. Kp is equal to, let's say, 100. GC2, I will take GC2 now. GC2. So GC1 and GC2 are simply different in terms of numerator has changed. All right. So now I take time response of unit step. So I am not taking velocity, reference velocity as 10. I am taking it as 1. Time response of GC1. So this is time response of, impulse response it has become. GC1 open loop. So GC1 goes here. Damping is increased. I have increased damping to 10. And I now over this I plot GC2. Two things are there. Oh, too much gain. I have given too much gain. Maybe little less. Is equal to, let's say, 10 or 5 maybe. Okay. This. So one is with 0.5, other is with 5. GC1 open loop step. So this one, as usual, will show you the 0.33 value. So you get 0.333. Okay. The damping is quick because my damping is more. Over this I add another one with slightly higher gain. This is open loop step GC2. Open loop step. Okay. R. Not open loop step. Step. All right. So two things have come. Let's compare them. So which one is what? I will tell you. The red one is the first one and blue one is the high gain one. So if you look at the values, right now I am reading the value of the red one, that is 0.333. If I change to second one's value, I get 0.833. So 0.833 is closer to my reference, that is 1. If I go on increasing gain, I will further approach 1. All right. But you see, what is the peak value of this second one? It is 1.26. It has exceeded the target. Is it not? So it has exceeded the target. So suppose you are having an automatic train which has to come to Kharagpur from Delhi, and it comes to Kharagpur but doesn't stop, goes to Jagpur. And then comes back, goes to Bednapur, then comes back, go to somewhere, Inda, then comes back to Giri Maidan, and then after lot of oscillations, it comes to Kharagpur. Will that be good? We want it to reach the target as quickly as possible without much of oscillations. Okay. Overshoot means wherever desired, you have crossed that. Okay. And again, you are coming back. So that kind of a thing we do not want. Likewise, let's say you are doing some kind of a robotic surgery and you have to remove gallbladder, but that robot tip, knife is mounted there, that has gone to heart, punctured the heart, then came back, and the dead body, it has operated and gallbladder is removed, but that person is dead. So you cannot really exceed the target in certain very critical situations. So while steady state error is dangerous, at the same time, this overshoot can also be dangerous. Okay, 1.26 means overshoot is 0.26. 1 is our target value. It has overshot the target by 0.26. Steady state error is at the end, what is the difference between target and the final value. So these are the problems. So increasing gain also is not a good solution. Though increasing gain doesn't cause instability here, in certain systems it can cause instability. So a very simple solution to this is to modify the controller. So whatever controller we are doing so far is proportional controller. Kp is proportional gain. We add two more things. We define a controller HS as Kp plus Kd by S plus Ki, sorry, not Kd by S, Kds. Kds plus Ki by S, and this controller, if you have this controller, the transfer function. So this is HS. If you give here error in time domain T, then this output of controller YC of controller T is proportional gain times error plus this Kd times dE T by dt plus this Ki times integral of Et dt. So if you take derivative, Ys Ycs is equal to Kp plus Kd. Derivative means Kd into S, and integration means Ki by S times Es. So Ycs by Es is equal to that Kp plus Kd S plus Ki by S. So this is what is a controller. Here, this is a proposed new controller. This is called PID control. PID or proportional integral derivative control. Okay. In this, it might be sometimes derivative is absent. It is PI control. Sometimes integral is absent. It is PD control. So you can have PID control, PI control, PD control, but nothing like ID control. P is always there. P will be always there. So it might be PI, PD, PID. So versions are PID, PI, PD. 3 versions are possible. So in this, Kp is proportional gain. Kd is derivative gain. And Ki is integral gain.
Sir, why not just ID? Why is it necessary to have a P?
I will show you. I will show you the individual terms, their properties. All right? Okay. Without much of derivation, I will show you what these terms Kp, Ki, and Kd, how they contribute. So they are basically feeding back error. One is proportionally feeding back error, other one is derivative feedback error, other is integral feedback error. Now, under this feedback, I will find what is with this control, what is the steady state error. So our GS was KR by MS square plus RS plus KR. Okay. So this PID will be put again in forward loop. This is reference plus minus, it will not work in back feedback loop. Here is PID. GS and straight feedback. So if this is the case, what do we get? This closed loop is PID multiplied. Okay. So KR PID is Kp plus Kd S plus Ki by S into Kr by Ms square plus Rs plus Kr divided by 1 plus Kp plus Kd S plus Ki by S into Kr by Ms square plus Rs plus Kr. That is Gs Hs by 1 plus Gs Hs. Okay. So this is the thing, and we can simplify this, multiply top and bottom by S into Ms square plus Rs plus Kr. Top and bottom multiplied to rationalize this. So if we do that, we get Kp plus Kps, Kd square plus Ki into Kr divided by, you will get here S into Ms square plus Rs plus Kr, that is the multiplier, plus Kp plus Kd, Kps, S is multiplied, Kd square plus Ki into Kr. So this is what we will get. So is that clear?
Yes, sir.
So once we get that, we have Us is equal to V by S, Ys is equal to Us GCS. So now limit Yt t tending to infinity is equal to limit S tending to 0 S into Ys is equal to limit S tending to 0 S into, you have there B by S and Gs, Kps plus Kd square plus Ki into Kr by S into something plus Kps plus Kd square plus Ki into Kr. Ss goes, that is Ki Kr by Ki Kr times B, that is equal to B. Is that so? So because this thing is multiplied with S, this disappears, completely disappears. So why that S came? That S came from that Ki by S. That extra S came from that Ki by S. So in that case, our steady state error, so SSE is equal to B minus B is equal to 0, and steady state error is removed by using integral gain. It's not due to Kd, it's because of the integral gain Ki. So this integral gain has removed the steady state error. That has introduced a K by S. That S has gone and multiplied with rest of the things, which has removed everything else. So in the final formula, none of the system parameters are relevant. what is value of mass, what is value of resistance, what is value of Kr, those are irrelevant. Entire dynamics of the system is rejected. Okay, this is what is called robustness. So PID is a robust control. What's that? Robust control? Let's say you have a drunk man. He doesn't have control over his hands and legs. He is walking here and there, maybe moving nowhere. Okay, and that person has to be taken to somewhere. And in the bar, two big American bouncers are there. They catch that person from two sides, lift him up, and they just take it. So whatever that drunk man, it might be swinging its hands and legs, it doesn't matter. The way it moves is governed by those two big bouncers. So they are the controllers. So these controllers are this controller is so powerful that it will completely overwhelm whatever that system dynamics is there. The system's own dynamics is irrelevant to it. Controller will drag the whole thing to the target. That is what is a PID control. Is that clear?
So here basically PI is a robust control, right?
D is separate thing. I will in short tell you what are these things do. In short, very short, I will tell you what do these terms do.
Sir?
Yes.
Here, irrespective of the constants we choose, Kp, Ki, Kd, we'll always get steady state error 0.
Yes. Unless they are non-zero. Those Ki value and Kp, Ki value are non-zero. Okay? Ki value should be non-zero. So what does this do? Let's say this is our reference. This is target. Or reference. This Kp decides rise time. What is rise time? The time it have to first reach the target or reach the maximum value. So if Kp, so this is, let's say it goes here. Okay. And something happens. So this time up to this time, this is rise time. If Kp is small Kp, this can happen for small Kp. That means you are not feeding back things proportional to the error. So it's not compensating quickly. Alright? So large Kp, it will be quickly approaching the thing. So Kp will decide rise time. So what does it do? High Kp, small rise time, but high overshoot. So if you, let's say you have to go to a target, you start very fast and run very fast, then you will obviously overrun the target. Alright? If you move slowly, you might take more time, but you will never overrun the target. So these are two different contrasting things. Small Kp, your rise time will increase. You will move to target slowly. If you give high Kp, of course you will reach the target quickly, but you will overshoot it. So Kp does this. What does Kd do? Kd controls the damping. Damping reduces overshoot and settling time. So what is settling time? If this is the peak value from here, so this is the thing. So from here you put, okay, this is 5% settling. Means 5% of this value, when is that reached? So this is, let's say H, this is 0.05 h. So this will be the settling time. Or sometimes it is not defined in terms of h, sometimes this is defined in terms of this. This is the, let's say, rep. So it is, instead of this, 5% of B rep. Sometimes defined in terms of overshoot, sometimes defined in terms of the value you have to reach. So as long as you reach within plus minus 5% of that target, that is called settling time. So if you increase KD, settling time will reduce. So KD, increased KD reduces settling time. Time, but amplifies noise. Why? KD has a derivative. Is it not? So if ET, suppose this is actual ET and there is noise. This is noise. So this noise derivative will come, noise derivative will be very high, and that will be amplified by this KD. So you cannot choose very high KD, though it can reduce settling time. So what we have, KD will address damping, KP will address how fast you approach the trajectory, and KI removes SSE. These are the three things. You have to play with these parameters to design the control system. So now time is up. I will just show that K, how that works. Some H I set. Let's say KP is 0.5 it was. KD is something very small, 0.1 start S, and KI is, let's say, whatever you want, 0.5 by S. So this is my PID control. All right, PID controller. My G was there. So if you look at this, my damping in the system is already 10. So if my system already has damping, I don't really require any extra D gain. D gain adds damping to the system, damping to the response. If the system already has good deal of damping, you don't add D gain. So I create my feedback system Y. Y is equal to, first closed loop control. Closed loop is G star H by 1 plus G star H. So this is my closed loop system. So I am taking unit step reference. So let me plot time response with unit step reference of GC.
Sir, you took H star H, sir.
Okay. I will remove it. G star H. Okay. This I stop this. So time GC. I will take open loop step. My velocity is 1, reference velocity. See, does it reach 1? So initial thing,
yes,
it was going to 0.49 and then going down and settling somewhere below 0.33. Now because of that I gain, it slowly goes and reaches 0.99 because some residual error is remaining. As long as that error is there remaining, some integration of that will come, and we are providing a input based on that error integral. Okay. So if you give more eigen, it will reach quickly. If you give more Kp, it will overshoot. So these parameters you can do. So what is the main outcome of this? If you have to design a control system, now this kind of a train is good for us. It will go to make a break just maybe 1 kilometer from the station, and then it will go there slowly. It is not going to overshoot to Jagpur. And with, let's say, heavy D gain or low Kp, I may avoid the overshoot, but coming from Giri Maidan to Kharagpur station might take 1 hour. It's coming slow, duk 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 duk. Okay, so this is a good enough control. Okay, that's what it is. Any questions here? Have you understood the whole thing? clearly. Let me stop this recording. Stop recording.